When the world expects thunder, sometimes the most powerful answer is silence. There is a kind of silence that is not weakness, not hesitation, not surrender. It is a silence that carries the weight of thought, strategy, and self-assurance. Turkey was shocked. The world stood still because America's response was not a loud declaration, not a storm of words, but a pause, a quietness that left everyone wondering what would come next. That is the art of strategic silence. It is the silence that unsettles rivals more than anger ever could, because in that silence there is mystery, there is calculation, there is strength. We live in a time where noise has become synonymous with power. Nations try to shout the loudest, leaders try to dominate headlines, and everyone believes that the one who speaks the most holds the greatest authority. But history shows us that some of the greatest moves were made not in the heat of debate, but in the calm of silence. America, in this moment, outplayed everyone not by being louder, but by being wiser. That silence was not emptiness, it was filled with patience, filled with the power to strike only when the moment was right. Think about it. When a nation remains silent while the rest of the world demands a reaction, it creates a space of discomfort. That discomfort grows into doubt, and doubt weakens opponents far more than any statement could. Silence makes the other side question themselves. What are they planning? What will happen next? Did we underestimate them? That very uncertainty becomes the most powerful weapon. Strategic silence is not just for nations, it is a lesson for all of us as individuals. In our lives, too, there are times when people provoke us, challenge us, and expect us to react immediately. The world tells us that if we stay quiet, we are weak. But the truth is, silence is strength when it is chosen, when it is intentional. It means we are not allowing others to control our emotions. It means we are preparing for the right moment to speak, the right moment to act. America's move stunned the world because it showed that leadership is not about constant reaction. It is about deliberate action. Silence is not absence, it is presence magnified. It tells the world, I don't need to explain myself. My actions will speak when the time comes. That is why Turkey was shocked, the world was stunned, and history was reminded that sometimes the most deafening sound is silence. Strength has never been about volume, it has always been about timing. When America made its move, it wasn't the noisiest voice in the room, it wasn't the endless declarations or warnings that gave it power. It was the ability to act at the exact moment when the world least expected it. That single decision reminded everyone that true strength lies not in how loud you appear, but in how precisely you choose your moment. Turkey was shaken because it anticipated noise and bluster, but instead what it faced was timing so sharp, so unexpected, that it outplayed every other calculation. The world has always confused loudness with leadership. Nations compete in making bold statements, leaders raise their voices in international forums, and people believe that whoever dominates the headlines must be the strongest. But when we look closely at history, we realize that the ones who truly changed the course of events were not those who shouted the loudest, but those who waited, watched, and acted with precision. America's move in that moment was not just a policy. It was a lesson to the world that timing is a silent force, invisible yet unstoppable. Think of a chessboard. A player who talks constantly about their strategy gains nothing. In fact, they expose themselves. The real master stays quiet, studies the opponent, and moves a single piece at the right time to change the entire game. That is what America did. It didn't rush to prove its strength. It didn't panic under pressure. Instead, it chose its moment, and in doing so, It reminded the world that victory doesn't belong to the loud, it belongs to the patient. This lesson is not confined to nations, it applies to us as individuals too. How often do we rush into decisions because we fear being left behind? How often do we speak when silence would have been wiser? Act when waiting would have been stronger? In our personal lives, relationships, careers, and dreams, it is never about doing the most at once. It is about doing the right thing at the right time. Timing creates impact. Timing transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary results. America's decision stunned the world because it showed control, not chaos. It revealed discipline, not desperation. The move said, without words, we don't need to be loud to be powerful. We need to be right when the moment demands it. That is the essence of strength. Power is not about endless noise. It is about knowing when to rise, when to stay still, and when to strike. The loudest voice fades quickly, but the well-timed move echoes in history. Every nation carries within it the power to decide its own path, and no external force, however mighty, can rewrite that destiny unless it is willingly surrendered. When America made its move and the world saw Turkey's shock, it wasn't just about political maneuvers. It was about a deeper truth. Every country, like every individual, has the ability to shape its story. Those who understand this rise above pressures, while those who forget it become victims of circumstances. History is full of examples where nations stood tall because they believed in their own destiny. Countries that were once colonized, broken, or underestimated rewrote their place in the world by deciding not to bow, not to be dictated to. The lesson is clear: external powers may try to influence, they may attempt to dominate, but ultimately the strength of a nation comes from within. Its resilience, its unity, its determination to chart its own course. America's move reminded the world that destiny is not gifted, it is seized. Think of how rivers carve their own path. Obstacles may block them, mountains may try to contain them, but the water finds its way, shaping valleys, creating landscapes, writing a story on the earth itself. A nation is like that river. Challenges will come in the form of stronger nations, economic struggles, or global pressure, but as long as it flows with purpose, it cannot be stopped. Turkey's surprise was not just at the move itself, but at the realization that destiny was being written in a way they had not predicted. This principle applies to our personal lives as well. How many times do we believe that others control our future? How often do we hand over our power by thinking, I can only succeed if someone gives me permission, if someone opens the door for me? The truth is, no one writes our story but us. Others may influence, they may delay, but they cannot define unless we allow them to. Just as nations stand firm in their sovereignty, we too must stand firm in our individuality. America's strategy was more than a political move. It was a declaration that a nation's future is decided not by the noise of others, but by the clarity of its own vision. The world may be stunned, rivals may be shaken, but the core message remains: no one controls destiny except the one who lives it. Power is not about following the script others have written, it is about daring to write your own. When a nation or a person takes that responsibility, they stop being controlled and start becoming the author of history itself. Resilience is the quiet strength that turns defeat into victory and setbacks into stepping stones. When America made its move and left Turkey shocked, the world realized that what truly unsettles rivals is not just power, but the ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times you are tested. Resilience is not about avoiding failure, it is about refusing to stay down when failure comes. That ability to endure, to withstand storms, And to keep moving forward is what changes the game in ways brute force never can. The strongest nations are not those that never stumble, but those that use every stumble as a lesson to rise stronger. History has shown us countless times that resilience outlasts aggression. Empires built on force have crumbled, while nations built on resilience have survived and thrived. America's move echoed this truth. It was not just an action, it was the product of decades of endurance, learning from challenges, adapting to new realities, and emerging stronger every single time. That is why the world was stunned. It was not simply strength on display, it was the resilience behind the strength. Resilience is what unsettles opponents because they expect you to break. They wait for your silence to mean surrender, for your struggles to mean weakness. But when you return stronger than before, when you rise after every setback, it sends a message louder than any weapon or speech. You cannot break what refuses to stay broken. That message is what shocked Turkey, because resilience has a way of rewriting expectations in a moment. In our personal lives, resilience works in the same way. People may doubt us, circumstances may push us down, and sometimes even our own fears may hold us back. But the true test of life is not whether we fall, it is whether we choose to rise. Every scar becomes a reminder of survival, every wound a lesson, and every setback a preparation for the comeback. Resilience is what transforms ordinary people into extraordinary stories. America's move reminded the world that resilience is not built overnight. It is forged in the fire of failures, struggles, and persistence. Just like steel is strengthened in heat, resilience is born in difficulty, and when it finally shows itself, it shocks those who underestimated it. That is why the world was left stunned, not because the move was expected, but because resilience had quietly prepared it all along. Resilience turns the tables not with sudden explosions of strength, but with the steady, unstoppable power of endurance. It says to the world, "You can test me, you can challenge me, but you cannot defeat me." That is the essence of resilience. It is the art of rising so many times that eventually the world stops trying to push you down and starts respecting your ability to stand tall. Boldness has always carried a weight that the world cannot ignore. When America made its move and left Turkey shocked, it wasn't just strategy, it was courage. The kind of courage that refuses to hide behind fear, the kind that chooses to act even when the outcome is uncertain. The world was stunned not because it had never seen power before, but because boldness forces even rivals to pause, to rethink, and to respect. A bold move shakes the ground beneath those who believe they control the narrative. It rewrites the conversation, and it sets the tone for history to remember. The truth is, the world does not admire hesitation. It may sympathize with it, but it does not respect it. Respect is earned by those who dare to take risks when everyone else is calculating excuses. America's decision in that moment was daring. It told the world, "We will not sit in the shadows. We will not wait for permission. We will shape the future with our choices." That kind of declaration, even without words, compels the world to look, to listen, and to acknowledge the presence of strength. Bold moves are rarely comfortable. They invite criticism, they invite doubt, and they often come with consequences. But what they always leave behind is an undeniable impression. Turkey's shock was the world's reminder that courage is disruptive, and disruption is what creates transformation. It is easy to play safe, easy to walk the path already paved. But when someone or a nation chooses the path no one dared to walk, the world cannot help but pay attention. This lesson extends far beyond nations. It belongs in our lives as well. How often do we silence our own boldness, because of fear. How often do we wait for certainty when what we need is courage? The truth is, no great life was built on hesitation. The people we admire, the leaders we celebrate, the dreamers we remember, they all had one thing in common: they dared. They acted boldly when the world expected them to step back, and in doing so, they shifted their stories forever. Boldness does not mean recklessness, it means conviction. It means believing so strongly in your vision that you are willing to risk the comfort of today for the possibility of a greater tomorrow. America's move embodied that conviction, and the stunned silence of the world was the proof of its impact. Rivals may disagree, critics may shout, but boldness leaves them no choice but to respect. At the heart of it, the world respects bold moves because they remind us of our own potential. They remind us that fear is not final, that courage is possible, and that transformation is real. Boldness does not just change nations, it changes people, it changes futures, it changes the world. And when a bold move is made with clarity and courage, it does not simply echo for a moment. It becomes a voice that history never forgets.